Start our prayer today. We're going to do a little bit of a different type of prayer. We're going to try it out. It fits well with our story. There was a saint named Ignatius of Loyola. He lived in the 15th century. He was a soldier until he got badly injured. And when he was injured, he had to live kind of basically, I guess, in his own quarantine as he healed and recovered. So he had a lot of time to himself. And in that time, he had some spiritual experiences, and he ended up writing a book of prayer, a guide to prayer that is still used today. And so one of the types of prayer, the one that I want us to consider, to try out, is called imaginative prayer, which involves slowly hearing a story from Scripture and picturing it take place, all the details of it. So not just letting the words register in your brain, but picturing them, the sights, the smells, the touch, taste, all those senses, how they might show up in the story. Imaginative prayer gives us space for slowing down the story a bit so that we hear it in different ways, so we can enter into it in ways we might not otherwise. Ignatius believed that visualizing biblical stories this way is a form of prayer, that it opens us to listen to God and to trust God in more ways, in deeper ways. And as part of the experience, he would invite people to not just picture the story, but then to say something to God in response about what the story brings up for them. And so their prayer flows then out of encountering the biblical story. So we're going to try this with the prodigal son today. I'll guide you through it. And I invite you, to start off, you can take a deep breath. If you are someone who likes to see something physically in front of you, you can look at the image of the prodigal son from Rembrandt. If you'd rather picture the scene on your own, you can picture it as you see it. So God, guide our prayer through this story today. Imagine what it feels like to be at the Father's house without the younger son. And then imagine what happens when the son appears in the distance. What do you see? What smells or sounds are around? When the father learns that his son is out there kneeling in the field, what changes about the scene? What shifts? What is the pacing of people's movements like? Picture the son kneeling there in the field, what his face looks like, his clothing, what it feels like to be the son in that moment. Imagine the father running toward his son, what his face looks like, what he feels. Notice any other details in the scene. Where are the other servants? What's happening in the fields? When some of the servants come with the robe and the ring, and the son realizes that the response he thought he'd get is not, that it's something different. Imagine what shifts in the son. Do any of the characters or objects in this story particularly grab you or repel you? Where do you place yourself in the scene? What feelings come up for you as you ponder the story? Now imagine Jesus' voice which is the voice that has narrated this whole parable. And if you were present and listening to Jesus tell the story, is there anything you would want to say to Jesus or to ask Jesus? What would you want Jesus to say to you about how the prodigal son story applies to your life? Is there a message that God might be wanting you personally to hear today, based on wherever you are in your life journey? And feel free to also name to Jesus any areas of your life that you want to give to him, or any people who are on your mind today. Lift them, give them to Jesus, knowing that God's embrace is for all. Take a moment to thank God for any insight or closeness that God's given you through this prodigal son story.